When you're looking at a chart or looking at your own chart, you can see it can be very complicated looking and you can easily get lost in how to look at it and where to focus. But
Hmm.
circuitry is a way to look at it and have a better understanding of how your energy all put together is going to be expressed. Human design reveals who you are energetically and who you came here to be. I'm Dana, the human design specialist.
And I'm Haley, the human design newbie. Listen in as we explore how leaning into your authentic self is your ultimate path to success. Today, we're diving into
Circuitry, channels and circuitry.
whoop.
Okay, that's a new sound.
Gotta switch it
Interesting.
up.
Yep. So, yeah, today I told you I hadn't decided really what we were going to talk about until yesterday morning. And because it just was like, no, you have to talk about this now. So, okay. So I'll talk about circuitry because it doesn't really get talked about a lot. You will probably hear it referenced, maybe. You'll hear
Hmm.
the terms collective circuitry or individual circuitry. I know you have from me a lot,
Yeah, but
maybe.
even like when you have showed it to me before, it was just like it was almost like not really a gloss over, but like a glance. But it was like you just kind of told me which ones I had that was more prominent, and then you're just like, okay.
Okay. Well, I've I've come to learn that it's pretty interesting because basically in the human design chart in the body graph there's all the gates. There's
Hmm.
64 gates. But I read somewhere that these gates, because of all the different possible combinations, connections, types, what other things people have activated in a chart, that just one single gate could have something like 56,000 possible combinations in that one gate with all these different connections of how it could be played out in a chart. And so that's why you can start seeing the really complexity and the really individually unique elements of this system because
Yeah.
it's a lot.
That is a lot of different possibilities.
Yeah, because it could be connected in this way, but then somebody would have, it's only one gate, but it really is interesting that a one gate could have a different kind of influence based on, the person and so many
Yeah.
different elements. So when you're looking at a chart or looking at your own chart, you can see it can be very complicated looking and you can easily get lost in how to look at it and where to focus. But
Hmm.
circuitry is a way to look at it and have a better understanding of how your energy all put together is going to be expressed, because what it shows you is how these lines of energy, the channels in the body graph, operate together. It's very intentional. Remember, it took how long? How long did that voice torture Raw to to get the system downloaded? Do you remember?
3 days?
8.
8.
I think that's what you said. Well, I mean, it's what I said, but you told me it didn't let him eat or not eat. Didn't let him sleep. You said when you did your research. You'll
Hmm.
have to go back and listen to episode 2. Maybe you should listen to it, Haley.
Maybe.
You just one and done here. It's like, nope, we'll just have the conversation and then we're done listening. But yeah, so it explores the way the energy circulates through the channels in the body graph. And it helps you design or helps you understand um, how how these centers connect to each other, what the themes are, and what they're really going to be about as you express this energy. And so it's looking at how you're actually wired. We always talk about it being like an energetic blueprint. And this is
Hmm.
when you look at circuitry, it really is, you can think about an architectural drawing where you can see, or maybe a wiring harness would be more appropriate, where you see where the connections are and how the energy is supposed to flow and which ways it's flowing. So that basically is what it does. It shows you which circuits dominate your design, because we're all going to be a mixture of all of them, because we
Mm-hmm.
all have all these different possible combinations with gates depending on where the planets were when you were born, and 88 astrological degrees before you were born, which is what comprises the body graph. So it can show you how your behaviors might tend to lean towards, or what motivates your behavior. And it shows you what it's really, what you are going to be more drawn to or seeking, or, you know, it's very interesting way of looking at things.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's review real quick. Not even really review, we're kind of going over it. Circuits are composed of the channels, and the channels are composed of what? Two
Two
gates.
gates.
Leading the witness. And so basically what a channel does is it connects one energy center to another. So then these gates are like entry and exit points for flows of energy out of the in and out of the centers. And so
Mm-hmm.
channel connects them. And what's interesting, not interesting, but the gate has its own individual expression. But then if it connects to the other end of that channel, to the other gate, then that is activated. So it almost creates this interesting third type of energy, because say like the sacral connecting to the solar plexus, the sacral center has lots of themes about work and life force and acting in response and everything, but
Mm-hmm.
the solar plexus is about emotion and timing, slowing things down a bit, clarity over time. And so those centers have different themes, but then when one gate from there connects to the other, it creates a whole different new kind of energy. So
Kind
it's
of
just,
a kind of a meld.
yeah, kind of a meld. The information from one center gets passed to the other center through that channel. And so that's why it's like, if you have a hanging gate, these are where these electromagnetic connections come up, is what they call it, where you're generally drawn to other people, because they would have, if they have that other end of the gate, it creates that channel and that flow of energy going. And so energy starts flowing through the chart a little bit better when you're around other people, if they have your connection, because it's all about getting that energy flowing from the root up to the throat and from the head down, just trying to get everything expressed out into the world through the throat chakra. So that's a little bit about energy. Okay. 64 gates, there's 36 channels, and then there
Checks
are
out.
that checks out. There's 6 circuits. I mean, there's 3 main circuit groups, and then they have sub circuits. Sounds more complicated than it is. And then there's these 4 channels, which are known as the integration channel, which really aren't part of a circuit, but I'm going to go over that in just a second. So, because I'm a visual person, I was able to understand this circuitry better by looking at it. And so I have created a quick PDF download. If you want to pause this, you can go look at the show notes. There'll be a link there for the PDF download of the circuits, and you can follow along and look at it if you like. So go hit pause and then do that. Okay.
Unpause.
Unpause. All right. So, as I said, 3 main circuit groups, and they also have sub-circuits. So the 3 main circuit groups are the
Uh,
individual.
oh, I was gonna try.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so you said individual,
I did.
tribal, and
Correct.
collective.
Very good. There's your first gold star. Today's episode. Right. The individual circuit group consists of 2 subcircuits, and they are the knowing circuit and the centering circuit. The tribal circuit group has 2 as well, the ego circuit and the defense circuit. The collective circuit group consists of the understanding or logic circuit group and the sensing circuit. Okay, so we have these main circuits that we were talking
Mm-hmm.
about, and the 3 main circuits. And then we also have the integration channel, which I'm going to talk about first. Okay.
Okay.
Each circuit group also has a keynote or a theme of what that's about, which is It's pretty self-explanatory once you hear it.
Okay.
So first starting with the individual circuits and the integration channel. So these channels that are comprised here carry the themes of mutation and transformation. Mutation being, something new, transformation, and the ability to articulate new ideas when the timing is right.
Hmm.
As you can imagine, these are just very individual people with very individual nature, as the name suggests. The subcircuits of these, the knowing and the centering circuit, also have specific tasks that help you understand what kinds of change you're here to bring.
You said you were going to do the integration ones first.
I said individual circuits plus integration channels, but they're all very individual.
Okay.
So they all carry a theme of mutation and transformation. But there's a slight difference here, which I was getting ready to get into. But once again, you're ahead of me. Okay. So starting with the integration channels, there's that master keynote for that one is individuation. And these integration channels, like I said, they're not really a circuit. It's more of a foundation of our physical descent into form, our biodiversity. It's like how we came to be from mammals to actual like Homo sapiens. Okay. There's 4 channels here, and they are, because I was going to list about here for everybody just so you can hear them. So if you're not looking at the chart and you kind of know, maybe you have, because some people might know what channels they have. Some people have like 1 or 2 or 5 or 6. So these are the channels are the 1020, the 3420, the 5734, and the 5710. These are all part of the integration channels. And if you look at them on a body graph, they all kind of hook together. It's interesting because it's hooking the sacral and the spleen, the G center, and the throat. So this is kind of this energy here is kind of the backbone of the core parts of what they call the individuation process. It's really about the energy of what it means to be human. And basically the purpose of the integration channels is developing that sense of self, that awareness of the self as being different from others and being conscious in your own form. So individuation. And this is that they are the channels that were formed when, like I said, when we first began to walk upright, representing that transition to actual Homo sapiens. And so they are about what makes us selfish, but that selfishness is what helps us survive, because you have to have a certain sense of selfishness in order to survive. Because if you don't care what happens to yourself and you're not protecting yourself, you're going to die, and your species is going to die out. It's good for our genes.
That's why there's self-preservation.
Yeah. Because what's good for your own health and your own survival is good for your species, generally.
What's good for the goose is good for the gander.
I don't really think that's an appropriate use of that. Sounds nice, but
Why not?
isn't the gander the young goose? Oh, that's a gosling.
I thought it was the group.
Maybe
What
it
is a
is. Maybe
gander?
I'm wrong. Oh no.
What is a gander?
Gander of geese?
Oh.
What is it?
I'm getting mixed answers from the Google. Because this is saying a male goose. I don't like that phrase anymore.
We might just we might have just to stop at self-preservation. Just stop there.
Why not leave in some of our tangents?
Sometimes I do. If you'd listen to the podcast, you'd know.
Well, whenever we record, you're like, I'm just gonna cut that out.
And I leave that in sometimes. Okay. So it's should be noted that if you have one or more of these channels, and I have seen charts, I've done readings for people that have had almost the whole entire integration network channels, all the integration channels, and they very much identified with this sense of being a very much an individual, and can come off to others maybe as more self-absorbed and self-centered because the energy in these channels aren't really concerned with how they impact others. It has nothing to do with other people. It is literally about thriving simply by following your own path in life. So it's somewhat of a primal quality to it because it's like, I gotta, you do you, I gotta do me because I'm getting out of here alive.
Why is
Because
it?
what?
Why are they not? Why? So why are they not considered a circuit?
I think it's because because a lot of the other energy in the chart is about how our energy is then impacting those around us for the betterment of everyone. Whereas these four channels are specifically just about that primal moving from mammals to human beings. And the chart continues to change and mutate over time, but it doesn't have anything to do with anybody else. It is very much because other channels in the individual circuit, they may be individual energy, but that individuality is there to help mutate the collective. They all relate to each other, but these are just about the self. So,
Okay.
yeah, it has nothing to do with the past or the future, which we'll talk about in some of the other circuits and how they operate. This is like in the now because it has that energy of like, is it safe? What's that noise? Is it going to eat me? Am I going to die? That's where this energy came from. But it's still part of us. It's still in our systems. And some people, it is consistent in them. They will have very defined instincts there. Like I was just talking to my friend Larissa. I don't think she'd mind if I mention she might not listen to this. And she has the 5710. It's one of, I think she has two channels, and that's one of them. And she definitely personifies this energy to me because she's always had a very, I think she would, some people would look at it that way because she has a very strong sense of self in that way, and does follow from thing to thing what is good for her. She's not a selfish person. She's a very loving person. She has family. She cares very deeply, but there is a core of her that is very much about what is best for her survival and feels good to her. But I don't want to share any more of her personal business on the podcast. But anyway, so, okay, moving on. So that was the integration channels. Any more questions about that?
No.
Okay, so moving into the actual individual circuit group. The master keynotes here are about empowerment. And like I said, there's two circuits, the knowing circuit and the centering circuit. So the knowing circuit has quite a few channels in it. So I'm just going to briefly read them. It's the 6124, the 4323, the 18, the 142, the 3-60, 3955, 2212, 2838, and the 57.
I have a question about
ma'am.
the circuits in general.
Okay.
So
I can answer.
it's, I haven't fully formulated the question, but basically, like, how in your own design is the circuit not necessarily like, I guess maybe determined? Like, do you have to have so many channels for that to be like, do you get what I'm trying to ask?
I understand what you're saying. Yes. So I understand what you're saying. So you can have gates in these because each gate is going to be part of a circuit.
Mm-hmm.
right? So even if you have that gate, but it's not connected to the other end, like the complete channel, you
Mm-hmm.
still have a gate that is present in that circuitry. So because it's not going to like connect any other way but through that one specific channel. So it's always going to be part of that circuit. Does that make sense? So
Mm-hmm.
the way it's laid out on the chart, it's there for a reason because that gate has a theme that corresponds with what is collective, what is individual, what is tribal. Does that make sense? Which is how it all comes together, it all layers together.
Yes.
So, like, of those that we just listed, I have the 4323 and I have the 8, but I don't have the 1. But that still counts as having, you look at the total of all your gates and what circuit group they fall in. Because, like, if you go into genetic matrix, and I think it's part of the page subscription part, but there is a tab or one of the charts, one of the things they show you on there that breaks it all down for you, what percentage of your gates fall within what circuitry.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a very good question. Very good question. I'm sure a listener had that question.
That's why I'm here. Well, I like how you said listener.
A listener. It's because I listen to the Smart List podcast and they're always like, listener in Wisconsin, because they all talk to the one, Sean Hayes' sister, Tracy, because they just assume it's just Tracy in Wisconsin is listening. So they always clarify things for Tracy or listener. But if you think about it, one at a time, we're talking to one person at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's you, listener. Thanks for listening. Oh my God. Okay. So people with a lot of definition, and definition will be gates. Like you said, it doesn't have to be channels, but it will be gates. A lot of definition in the knowing circuit. Agents of change.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So
and
that's specifically in the knowing channel, knowing circuit, knowing channel. What is it?
It's the knowing circuit. It's
Well,
a sub-circuit of
I was going to say it's the knowing sub-circuit.
Correct. So after a while, you'll be able to maybe look at a body graph and be like, oh, it makes sense. Like when you have the visual, if you're looking at the PDF or you have another reference to look at, the channels that go straight down the middle of the body graph, starting at the head all the way down to the root. That's individual circuitry. And then when it comes off of the throat, it goes to the spleen and it goes to solar plexus back down to the root. And so it's this very complete individual. It's pretty cool. Like I said, visuals really help. Mm-hmm. So the role of this circuitry is to empower others by being an individual example of your own uniqueness. So it's literally like, let your freak flag fly. Yeah, that's right. Let your freak flag fly.
There you go.
That wrong. Because by you being you, that is the gift you bring to the world. Because it shows other people that it's okay to be who you are. And there's a great book. A lot of this I'm referencing from Richard Rudd, who is the creator of the Gene Keys, but also has this amazing little book called Human Design Circuitry. And it's a guide to channels and gates and all this stuff. And he's just a genius at how he sees things. It's so simple, but he's a poet as well. I mean, sometimes his stuff's really deep and I can't quite understand, but not I don't understand it. You need to think about it. But he has taken the gates or the channels and all kind of formed them together in a nice little synopsis. And so this is from him. He says, the individual is here to mutate the direction of others as seen by society. Individuals will always provoke the spirit of others by fighting for what they value in life. Through their sharp, intuitive awareness, flashes of inspiration, and sudden insight, what they can say can have a lasting impact on those who hear from them. And so you can look at the book if you want to know where he got all those gates from. I just think he's genius. Mm-hmm. So basically, individuals, they don't really like to be told, and this is the knowing circuit here. If you think But it is a knowing. This is a lot of energy that is about knowing. Where in the head, it starts up there in the 61. That's the start of the knowing circuit through the head. And then through the root, it's the 60. And so it is a energy that, well, I carry a lot of it, but it is hard to explain that sometimes there's just things you just know. And it's not like a new intuitive awareness. It's literally like you don't know how you know, but you just
Mm-hmm.
know. And it can, especially if it's mixed with other circuitry, as most we are, it can be a little frustrating at times to articulate what it is you know. But, and it's interesting because they say they're kind of deaf to others. You might think that they're literally tuning you out, not listening to you. And they may be, but a lot of times it's just there's a lot going on in their heads. And so they don't necessarily need to listen to you. So they often feel like they're outsiders, not really concerned though with fitting into society. With I can totally relate to, because I've always said I don't really feel like I fit in, but I don't really care if I do. It's like you do, but you don't. You do, but you don't. Like you don't want to be outcast, but you also don't care if you're homogenized like the next person. These are people that are here to be different and are capable of kind of genius moments, but not on demand. You don't really know when it's coming. They say there can be a lot of melancholy in the knowing circuit, but this melancholy is also, you know what melancholy is? You're making a face.
Oh, it's like Eeyore. He's very
Eeyore.
melancholy.
It's
Or
very
Roxy.
Oh, Roxy, my dog. Yeah, it is kind of it's just
Just
kind
kind of
of
like,
a low, just a
yeah,
low,
just kind of
maybe
like,
the blues a little bit. And I think that,
yeah.
that comes, it does come through that emotional solar plexus, the part of the channel that goes through the solar plexus there. The 3955 and the 1222, those channels are definitely known for rather intense highs and lows, or as some say, this vacillating back and forth between hope and pain. Is a good way to describe it too. It's an interesting way to say it. Anyway, so this is when they can also be very creative, because when you're feeling in that more melancholy times, you do kind of draw into yourself, and that's a lot of creative moments can happen there. Another thing to note is that there's an element of struggle in this circuit, because that channel 2838, that's known as the channel struggle, that's the traditional human design name for it. And a lot of times I know people that when they see that they have that channel, it's like, oh, great, I'm going to struggle my whole life. And remember, there's higher and lower expressions of everything. And there could be moments that you probably do struggle unnecessarily if you're not aware of what the struggle is for. And so if you can look at it in the context of growth and evolution, struggle is important, because
Yeah.
how does a baby chick get out of the shell?
They fight their way out.
That's right. You think, all the things that are seeds, they have to like push through. Everything has to kind of push up, push through, make an effort, struggle to change into a new form. And
I believe I think it's the tiger shark. They one baby and the mother will eat the rest of them.
okay. How is that helpful to this conversation?
Struggle. To struggle to survive.
I love you. You can take it to the extreme. Talking about a little baby chicken and acorn, you're like, yes, tiger sharks eat their siblings.
And look, they eat their siblings in the womb.
You mean that kind of struggle? Well, it doesn't have to be that extreme in life.
Okay, fine.
But I guess a tiger shark learns early how to be a predator.
They are aggressive.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Okay. But, okay, so maybe back to that point, so it takes effort, and there's something that has to be work for, struggle, effort. And if we didn't have to struggle or make that effort to, I guess, survive, there could be lots of dangerous mutations out there. Maybe
Hmm.
those sharks weren't meant to be born.
Maybe they weren't. Just
But
had other plans.
as people though, taking this to humans here. And it doesn't have to be just other people, but what I mean is situations you're in or things that are worth keeping and growing and evolving will take some effort because it has to refine it a little bit in a way. Because if we had all these things that just as soon as something occurred, we have all these quote unquote creations, mutations, whatever you call them out there, they might not all serve people. There just might be a lot of useless things out there, right?
Yeah.
So basically, this struggle, to change or whatever you want to call it, has to struggle against the status quo, basically, in order to prove the effectiveness of what is trying to come through, the value, the effectiveness of it. So, therefore, with this circuitry, you have to trust and wait for the right timing to share what it is because there is that element of, even though it goes through the spleen, it also goes through the solar plexus, especially if it's going through the solar plexus. People will have to share or have to wait to share. There's a lot of that in this, is that you just gotta wait, right timing. People can be considered a little ahead of their time, and if they try to share some things without being asked or whatever, run the risk of being misunderstood. People just aren't ready for it, because remember, this is knowing. You might not be able to back up what it is and so
Yeah.
I have that experience a lot. This isn't about logic, it's about knowing. Okay. All right. So, any questions about that?
No, that was all still the knowing circuit.
Yes, the knowing subcircuit. Because the next one, the centering subcircuit, still part of the individual circuit group. There's only 2 channels.
Centering, like a center.
Centering, like centering yourself. It's the 3410 and the 2551. So there's a lot of power.
So both of those 2 subcircuits make up the entirety of the individual circuit.
Individual circuitry, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because this is also about individual power, but it's about empowerment. But it is, and if you look at it on the body graph, it connects the sacral out of the 34 up to the G center, over to the will, the heart center, ego, heart, will, ego, whatever you call it. It's a very minor circuit with only 2 channels, but its main focus is on behavior. It's about empowering others to love themselves and follow their own unique path in life. It's about, especially that 3410, it's the channel is called exploration. The gate 10 is the gate of, in the G center, is the expression of love, self-love, basically love of self, I should say. And so it's about the thrill of being yourself and deep love of life as an individual. About being able to act according to your own nature and to move forward with courage. So they say that these are people that are always ready to kind of jump into anything, kind of leap into the void. They're like up for the see what happens kind of thing, just to find out what's on the other side. And they're here to empower others by following their own unique direction. And so, because it's connecting the sacral through the heart center, and well, I say heart center because the G center and the will center were the original, like, heart center that went into 2 centers.
Right.
There's no awareness there. It's not connected to the spleen or the head center, the ajna, which are more awareness centers, or the solar plexus. So it is just about this trusting the sacral response is what it's connected to, of what's good for the self and which direction they want to go. And so it's important to also point out here that these are people that may have been conditioned out of behaving this way, of behaving differently than the way they're designed to be, because as you can imagine, things are hopefully swinging back the other direction and changing. I don't know if it is even back the other direction, or just changing direction where this power of the individual is starting to be more valued and recognized. And even from my generation to your generation and the generation coming after you is going to be even more so.
Mm-hmm.
But still, my generation, people were not really interested in people trying to forge their own path and do things their own way.
No, no,
No,
no, no, no, no, no, no. Don't do
none of
that.
that. None of that. No. You must do what everybody else is doing. And so, especially if there's somebody listening who has a lot of, or some of this even, circuitry, there's probably a lot of maybe people telling you you're just too much. You're just not like the rest. It could have some negative connotations to it, but it, you're designed to be different and you're designed to be a leader and, go your own path, because like I said, this is an individual circuitry, but it's about how you being an individual impacts those around you. And this is, you empower people to follow their own path, follow their own heart. And so that's that. Questions?
I don't think so.
Okay. So moving on to the tribal circuit group. So away from the individual into the tribe.
Branching out.
Branching out. So this consists of the two subcircuits of the ego circuit and the defense circuit. And this, did I say what the master keynote was? I just totally
No,
lost
because
my
we
train
just
of
got
thought.
into it. No, we
The
just got into
keynote,
it.
the keynote is about support. Okay. So this circuit is all about love, connection, and nurturing. It's about the tribe. It contains really the energy for creating resources for sustainable nurturing. Because if you think about it, the tribe is your immediate people. It's about those you're really connected to, family. But because there's this energy for love and connection, there's also the energy for war as well. So it's intense energy in these circuits. So the first part of the circuit, the ego circuit, consists of the 5432, the 4426, 1949, 3740, and the 2145. And so in this ego sub circuit, it contains this, how do I say this? Again, if you're looking at the thing, at the PDF, the thing,
You're looking at the thing.
it contains the solar plexus, the will center, and the root. So it connects all those together and then it connects up to the throat. This circuitry is about creativity and bringing forth agreements into material form, bringing agreements, so that we can all agree and get along.
Keeping the peace.
Keeping the peace. And it is the foundation upon which our way of life and structures are maintained. It's the glue that holds everything together.
Makes sense.
Okay. And so it's about transforming these individual wants, desires, ambitions, and transform it into successful teamwork, working for the tribe that ensures the protection of the tribe. And it's about the relationships that support and nourish each person's place in a community.
Okay.
It's not about personal direction here, because there is no, when you're looking at it, there's no connection to the G center, which is our center for direction and sense of self, and it's not connected to that. So this is all about the tribe, the community. It's not mental or philosophical. It's not connected to the ajna or anything like that. It's connected to the throat. So it is about getting that. It's about this plane, about this world. When I say plane, the material plane, it's about maintaining community growth, etc. I think I've said that a few times there. So these are people that are always trying to find this balance between work and rest. And if you remember the will center, ego center, whatever you want to call it, because
That's the gas tank.
Yes, that's the gas tank. It is a motor in the chart. but it does work to rest. And that's a really important element, especially in that channel. The 3740 is what connects the will center to the solar plexus. I mean, these are people that really like to work. And you'll find people that have this, especially that 4037, they almost sometimes have to be forced to rest. There can be a lot of burnout in that channel because they are working for their family, for their tribe, for the
For their
safety and
people.
protection. And they're usually like to work and they need to value the work that they do. And they unfortunately also tie their own personal value to the amount of work they do or how hard they work. That makes sense.
Is that people with the sub-circuit or specifically that channel?
This is in that ego sub-circuit of the triangle circuitry. Yes.
Okay, so more general, just in that ego sub-circuit. Okay.
It's kind of the energy of, like I said earlier, about making agreements and bargains for everybody. It's kind of like that, scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. You've heard that, right? You know, like you take care of me, I'll take care of yours. And they're generally seen as really salt of the earth people who really value and need community and family. And their greatest concerns revolve around having enough food and money and affection. As you can imagine, these are very tribal needs. And you can see that bears getting poked a lot these days, these tribal needs of everybody getting into their tribes of what's right for them and what's best for their people. Now, that being said, it's not meant to only have this tribal circuitry. There is a mixture of all of them, and we're meant to interact with you. There's real value in that circuitry, but hopefully we can, as a people, move out of this tribal mentality a lot of people are in right now and think more collectively. But anyways, that being said, about the concern around food and money and affection, these are people that it's interesting to me that are centered around touch and smell. And they say that these are people that really need to like see you up close, like shake your hand, you know, especially they say people with this kind of circuitry, if you have this circuitry or any of this circuitry, especially if you're entering into agreements with people, and this is especially through that 1949, I've heard this before, that you need to really like look someone in the eye and you almost have to be close enough. This sounds weird. You got to like smell them in the sense that you got to get a smell for someone. Because you think about it, that's another one of these instinctual kind of things. But you've got to really, which a tribal community is a smaller community, which usually is in close quarters, right? I mean, they're not all like literally huddled in the same tent, but originally we may have been. So in order to get a real feel for who someone is, they need to like be in close contact with them and meet you up close.
Give them a nice sniff.
Well, they've got to know if you're trustworthy, if it's like safe to bring you into their tribe in a way. Makes sense, right? And they usually don't trust anything unless they can get a smell for it. I see you're pondering, thinking, who do I know like that?
Well, I was going to say El Presidente.
Well, that is, we are speaking, listener, we're speaking of Haley's lovely fiance, Presley. Yes, personality son is in gate 54.
Not who I meant.
Oh, who'd you mean?
Biden, because he sniffs hair.
Oh.
I've never once referred to Presley as El Presidente.
He refers to himself as the maestro. God, that's painfully embarrassing. Awkward.
Oh my.
But I would say that Presley is someone that wants to shake someone's hand and be able to like look them in the eye.
Yeah.
Like he is very much somebody who is like, he needs to know he can trust you. I would say that about him.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
He doesn't go around smelling people's heads. He doesn't really want to get that close to people, but he will want to shake your hand. He has a good handshake too. Strong handshake. Okay. So moving on. The defense circuit, still in tribal circuitry. The defense circuit's a very simple 2 channels. And it literally is just the sacral reaching over to the solar plexus through the 59-6 and reaching over to the spleen through the 5027.
It's like, what's up?
Yeah, so this is the energy that sustains life on the planet. This is about actually creating life and sustaining life. It's about sexuality, bonding, raising children, and it's about providing resources for the tribe, as well as values, rules, and laws. So the values, rules, and laws parts of it live in that 5027. And one way to look at this circuit, since it just splits off the or the sacral and goes one side to the other, is the kind of the father energy, the mother energy, because the 59-6 is always seen. I think it's the channel of, it's called in traditional human design, the channel of mating. And that's the energy there, because that's that sacral energy connecting to the solar plexus. It's about knowing who to connect with, what's going to be the right connection, and providing that energy for creating life. And then the other side is the 5027, and that's the more mothering, nurturing energy, where also these values, and that's the channel of preservation is what it's called. So it's the circuitry that is the glue that binds the family together in the tribe. And it's also one of the seats of where love is present in the chart, because, your family. This circuitry is about pulling people into the heart of community. These are people that are nurturers, really, especially with that defense circuitry. I mean, that preservation on the left side. So it's about establishing values that support the basic genetic continuity of a tribe or a family. Because I think we talked about it here. I know we've talked about it. The primal drive is to create offspring and ensure the safety of at least one generation, right? So then that generation can ensure their survival and safety. And so that's where this energy lives in the chart. So when you bring the ego circuit and the defense circuit together, it's basically the basics of human life process. And that it says that there's no survival for the young without the protection and the nourishment of the community in the material plane. And that's what material plane is about, is ensuring that. So that's the tribal. And so lastly, I'm not even going to ask if you have any questions. No, I'm just kidding. Do you have any questions?
No.
The collective circuitry group, 2 circuits. And this is a really, it's kind of an interesting way to look at it. If you're looking at the chart, the 2 subcircuits are the understanding or logic circuit and the sensing circuit. So if you're looking at the body graph, at the top of the body graph in the head, you see on the left side of the chart is the beginning of the sensing circuit through that channel of abstraction, the 6447. And then through the ajna, it travels over to the other side of the body graph and goes down the right side of the body graph, which is where the solar plexus is. So this is the abstraction. The sensing circuit is about experience, learning through experience, feeling, looking back at the past, and what was your experience? What did you learn? What needs to come forth? That's the sensing circuit. And then the other side, the understanding or logic circuit, starts in the 63 through the 63-4, travels to the other side of the ajna down through the 17, and goes along the left side of the chart through the spleen. So it's a different logical energy. So we're going to dig into that. So let's start.
So they both start in the ajna, and then comes down and crosses over, and then comes down and crosses over.
That's one direction if you're looking at it. But then in the root, it hops back over to the other side. You'll see it if you look at the PDF. It's kind of cool. So let's start with I think it's easier to start with the logical side, because I do have some logical circuitry. So let's start with the understanding side. So the understanding circuit, or the logic, I rarely use understanding. I use logical. So we're just going to go there for now, because it's more logical. So the logical circuitry consists of the 63-4, the 17-62, the 7-31, the 5-15, the 9-52, the 1858, and the 4816. Okay.
This feels
So
like a lot.
these, yeah, except for that head gate at the top, except for the head and ajna gates at the top, it's all on the left side of the chart. And then at the bottom of the root, it connects the 952 is on the other side of the root. Anyways, this is about understanding patterns that repeat over time. So this is more of the energy of, if you think about the scientific process, it's about information that is predictable, consistent, and allows you to make decisions. So your people with this circuitry are very good at recognizing the patterns in things. It's, like I said, it's a more logical, scientific approach to understanding the world around us, and it's much more forward thinking, because what is a hypothesis? What is it based on? It's, you kind of have a sciencey mind.
Oh,
It's doing
so
what?
a hypothesis is you basically state what it is that you expect is going to happen.
Expect is going to happen. Correct.
Yeah.
And each time you do an experiment, refining the process, and you can start to see over time your hypothesis, your predictions of what you think is going to happen can become more reliable because you have a lot of data.
Yes.
Right? So this is the keynote, I should also say, for the whole collective circuitry is sharing. So it is about gathering this information and sharing it for the survival and betterment of, like, humanity, not just your
Of the
tribe,
whole.
of the whole world.
No pressure.
Everybody. Yeah, because these people with this circuitry could tend to be a little more social, because it is about helping the collective. Don't don't eye roll. They're
There
also
wasn't
very,
an eye roll. There was a.
but these patterns that are understood are here to be passed on to others for the benefit of the collective, like we said. So people with this logical circuitry could be seen as very logical people. They can be seen as sometimes more serious, and may, I had to laugh when I was reading about this, may love to argue a point,
Wow, I wonder who that is.
can be very opinionated. Well, I'm looking at you as well.
Oh.
Not just your brother. You've got a good fair amount of this too. You have a
It's a
good
blue
balance of it.
dress.
Yeah. It's a blue dress, right? But, that's okay. You've got to stick to your opinion
Guns.
of what you think is going to happen. I mean, that's what science does. They basically fight for what they think is going to happen. When I say fight, argue for what they believe is going to
But
happen
then-
based on what they have seen in the past, what they think is going to happen.
And what they can
Patterns.
scientifically prove.
Yeah, so the logical people are here to repeat something over and over until they master it. Like I said, that's the whole process of doing experiments until you know what the end result will be. Very detail-oriented, skeptical, doubtful, have an insatiable need for answers. And then they're usually not satisfied with the answers. And then they're driven by this need to question and challenge those answers.
That's probably one of Presley's biggest pet peeves is he's like, you always have to check what I say. And I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, it's usually right because he just knows it, but I still have to check.
Knowing. Yes, he has all that knowing circuitry. It's annoying, isn't it?
Yes. I didn't prove him wrong today, but I did kind of correct him. Because he was like, one thing I hate about CarPlay, because we were in my car, he's like, you can't, on Spotify, you can't play your songs. And I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure you can. So I go in and I do it right there. And he's like, oh, why is it under playlist? I was like, because liked songs is a playlist.
It's logical. I have to agree with him. Of course. Why would it be there?
Because it's liked songs is a playlist. They're not just going to have it's a list that you play of your liked songs. Playlist.
Okay. So, logical circuitry has a constant need for focusing on an improvement, Means these people can be extremely talented in any field or project that they choose because they have that focus. That 952 in the root is this channel of concentration. It's about seeing the big picture and knowing when to focus and zero in and focus your energy. And so that's the format energy here in the root. The energy that comes up out of the root is that focused concentration and energy. So people with logical circuitry are also often cool-headed and have a very particular sense of taste and are always looking to be really to be of service. They do want to help. Okay. Oh, another thing to note is that it's not connected to the emotional solar plexus at all. So this is a very logical, like I said, non-emotional energy.
The logical sub-circuit.
Yes, it's very non-emotional. It's just looking at the patterns, seeing what you think's going to happen.
And this happens, so this will happen.
Exactly. It's logical.
Duh.
Okay. So and this would be what also is referred to as left brain thinking, right?
Sure.
Right brain, left brain. So moving on to the other side of the sensing circuit, the right brain, the more abstract brain process, energy process circuitry. The sensing circuit consists of the 6447, the 1156, the 1333, 2946, 5342, 4130, and the 3536. And so, as I said, this is about the human experience. This is about lessons learned. What have you experienced? What can you share with the collective based on what you experienced? This does include the emotional solar plexus. So if you can think about it, is this over time, because there's no in the now with the solar plexus, that's in the spleen. It's what is over time has been learned. And it's more abstract. They say people with this circuitry, like I said, you often hear that right brain people more creative. That channel, the 6447 at the head ajna is called the channel of abstraction. And then at the root, where it comes from the root to the solar plexus, the 4130, that's also seen as this energy of visioning, of being able to have a vision for what you want to create. And so there is that very much a visual component to a lot of this energy of being a visionary, seeing the bigger picture. Like I said, it's about experiencing and reflecting on your past experiences to know what is valuable to bring to the collective. So this energy that comes from the root to the solar plexus up to the throat, this is really a theme there of change through, they say, like through crisis, through experience. Sometimes it can be jumping into things just for the experience again as well. But it's not really a success or failure that occurs here. It's more of a discovery of knowledge of what occurred. Because, you kind of have to know what doesn't work to know what does work. Right? And people with this circuitry understand that about the experience. So with the keynote of sharing, sharing is your experience is not just like, this is what happened. This is who was there. This is the outcome. There is feeling attached to it. It's not just telling the facts. It's about exploring the memories that went with it as well. Like your grandparents, your elders, they tell the stories of what happened. And that's how we used to always, so I think some of the most valuable lessons are passed down through generations is through story. And there's a lot of storytelling in this circuitry. It is about, especially that through that 1333 is about, if you have that circuitry, there's a certain amount of aloneness and alone time needed there, because when you have the experience, then you have to kind of retreat and kind of evaluate and process for yourself. What did this mean? What can I learn from this? That's very much a lot of the theme in this circuitry. So because this goes through the solar plexus, there is a lot of need for patience. People with this circuitry have They are here to learn about patience because there is no clarity in the now, like we said in the solar plexus. So it is about learning patience. And because there is that emotional component to it, it's really important for people with this circuitry when they enter into new experiences to do so without expectation. Like logic circuitry is more about what you expect will happen because it is about the results. You know, you have the goals, you have this is what we're going to achieve. Whereas this is more about reflecting back on the experience. So if you go into it with expectations, what you think might happen, you're quite often disappointed and things a lot of times don't work out the way you expect. And if you don't meet those, if it doesn't meet those expectations, they could see it as a failure. But there is no failure here. It is just about learning through experience. So that's pretty much what that is all about. So if you can then think about these three main circuitry groups, aside from those integration channels, that's just all about crawling up out of the muck and becoming human. But I think the best way I've ever heard it described is through Karen Curry Parker and in her Understanding Human Design book. So I will do my best to relate it this way. I think she explains it like this. There's these two brothers. You can go back in time as far as you want when people used to live in tribes or whatever, you know, or just not a time like today where everything's on the internet and you can learn everything you want to know right now. But two brothers, Bob and Tom. And Bob was always kind of seen as the odd one. You know, he was the guy that just kind of always went his own way. And when he had this chance, Bob went and did his own thing. He went and lived out, say, down by the river by himself because he needed a lot of time alone. He liked to do things his own way. He doesn't want to do things like everybody else. And he's quite okay with being alone. So he goes off, and everybody understands that about Bob. So they let him go off. And his brother Tom stays with the tribe. So one day, Tom goes to visit his brother because he likes to check in on him, make sure he's doing okay. And as they talk, he sees that Tom has made himself, or Bob has made himself, this really cool new tool that makes it easier for him to fillet a fish. Let's just say, I don't care what the tool is. It could be chopping
It's a really
wood,
cool
whatever. It's a really cool tool that makes his life easier. He made one for himself because he was out there by himself. He figured it out. He needed something. He created it. And
Good
Tom
job, Bob.
said, yeah. Tom's like, Bob, you're doing these things. That's really cool. Can you help me? Can I get one of those? Can I make one of those? Or, can I borrow yours? And he said, no, I'll make one for you.
Make you one.
Yeah. So now Tom has the tool that Bob had. So Tom saw the value in that. He then took it back to the tribe, the community that they both came from. And he started using that there to help the people in the tribe. So Tom, now that he has this cool tool that Bob had made and he's showing it to his tribe and everybody agrees it's really useful. And let's say it was something like to fillet a type of knife or something that used to take a lot more time to like prepare all the fish and everything for the tribe. So now it's done a lot easier so that he has more time on his hands to maybe, do other things and have other resources. So as people do in tribes and communities, at times they have to go out and interact with other tribes. There's for trade or whatever. So, let's say in this scenario, Tom packs up all the stuff that he's had, maybe the fish that he's collected. I think they dried fish back then. They didn't keep fish around for too long.
They smoked it.
They smoked it. And, but he goes and meets with all the other tribes at the local, I don't know.
Swap meet.
Swap. It's a farmer's market. It's a tribal market. And the other tribes notice this new tool that he has that they haven't seen before, and they're very interested in it, and they could see how it helped his tribe in making things work faster, better, whatever it is. So they therefore ask for their own versions of it. They want Tom to make them a knife. And so he does start making these knives, trading it for other things with the other tribes, which he then can bring back those resources from, what he used and what he made it becomes like a commodity of things. But
Mm-hmm.
this commodity is helping everybody in the collective because over time, everybody's using one.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Bob invented the iPhone.
Oh, Bob.
Sorry. Anyways, I thought of that the other day. I saw a guy jogging and he had the earbuds in. I thought, how crazy is that? That I remember a couple years ago, and everybody who says, there's no way people are going to, I know you're wearing some now. There is no way people are going to walk around with these ugly white earbuds in their ears and they're going to fall out of your ears and you're going to lose them. Nobody's going to want them. Bring us our cords. And here we are.
Here we are.
It's not even, how many years? It's like 2-3 years.
Probably.
Earbuds. And it's like everybody's got earbuds in their ears because one person thought of it. You know, here we are wrapped up in all these wires all the time. Let's make it wireless. Why not? Why not let that signal travel through our brains instead of a cord? Hey, I have earbuds. I love them. Thank you, Tim Apple. I say Tim Apple
Apple?
because that's because of our esteemed 44th president called him Tim Apple. Yeah.
Tim Apple.
I know his name is Tim Cook. Thank you, everyone. Please.
I wouldn't have gotten there.
Okay.
I forgot what the guy's name was.
So anyways, basically, that was a very long-winded story to say that the individual brings forth new things, new ideas, new stuff, really just because they need to in their own individual process. There's just the intent of, what can I do here? Spreads to the tribe, spreads to the collective, that over time, where it starts in that individual idea, can help change the world.
I see it as like individuals, like a circle of one. It's in the middle of a circle. And then the tribal is the circle outside of that with just a couple little things in it. And then the collective is a big old circle with all those circles inside of it and lots of things.
Yeah, the collective's like the sphere, that the collective all around it. Yes, it's very simple. But as I said, except for your fiance Presley, who has generally all individual circuitry, most of us are a mixture of all three circuit groups.
He still has a mixture. It's just predominantly individual.
Mm-hmm. But I truly, truly believe that he is so strong in his individuality because, and you can see it in the things he wants to do. He wants to have an impact on the collective. Mm-hmm. He really does. He's not just thinking small all the time. He is always thinking outwardly big. I think he is. You know, I think he has that little, like you said, his sun gate is in that tribal circuitry. And so I think that makes him a good, stable person for you to, bond with, because he will help take care of you and yours. But I mean, yeah, he wants to have really a lot of influence on the collective, I think. I think he will. Mm-hmm. I think he will. So I said earlier before we started recording, I wasn't sure if I was going to bring this up or not, but I decided,
we're going to fashion now.
Why not? Because this kind of pertains to collective.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I said I am not one to get on social media or anything and want to rant. But yesterday,
on your podcast.
I'll do it on my podcast. You can turn it off now if you don't want to listen to me. But I've been shopping lately for a dress for a wedding, for my nephew's wedding next weekend. And
by the time this comes out, will be over.
Right. So, not important. What does the attire say on the invitation? It says cocktail, basically, for women.
Cocktail formal, yeah.
Okay. I don't really have anything. We live in South Carolina. It's pretty casual living down here. Yeah. For the most part. But people do dress up for Sunday church.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. We in the South.
People know how to dress up here. But lately, I have not had an experience like this when it goes to shopping. And I can never, ever recall hitting every store in town that I think would have something that would fit me to have the ugliest clothes for sale. Oh my gosh, things are
You mean
so ugly right now.
you mean you don't like prairie chic?
It's not even prairie chic, it's prairie sheet. Everything just like everything is a sack. I mean, I can't tell you how many things I saw that went straight across the bosom, and it was stretched, like
Ruched?
gathered. Yeah, ruched with, yeah, like what you're wearing. Exactly. Straight across the bosom. I mean, these are shirts that were popular when I was like 4 or 5. It's like
Oh yeah.
70s. And then ruffled straps, not even sleeves, just strap. Yours is a little more of a sleeve. Ruffled straps. And then just straight to the ground with a lot of material.
And no
And
shape.
then I don't even, what do you call it? Those seams that go around. It's not really gathered, but that prairie skirt, whatever. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
And the colors and the patterns are they're either like eyesore, geometric, bright, not geometric, fluorescent bright, or they're the most muted, ugly sheets that were on your grandmother's bed. Sheets, colors, browns, blues are so freaking. I mean, I did say to someone, I was in Marshalls, and I was looking at, I'm just, my face, I'm just visibly like disgusted by everything I saw. This lady said, "Oh, are you finding anything you like?" And I was like, "No." And I said, "When did they start making such ugly clothes?" And she just
Does this
looked at
lady
me.
work there, or she was
No,
just like another customer?
she was a customer. I thought she worked there until I realized she started talking to someone else. I mean, she asked me if I found anything I like,
She's just
but
friendly.
I said, "There's nowhere around here you can just find a nice cocktail dress." You know, like we went shopping for a Mother of the Bride, which we found, but there's got to be this in between point
Yeah,
between
we
like
found a
all
lot of
sequin.
nice formal.
Yeah, in between all sequins and strappy sundress. There's nothing in between. Unless, I mean, okay, I am 51, but I am by no means ancient, and I am by no means ready to just dress in like
Matron.
matron wear, which is everything's like a scarf on top or something. It's
Yeah,
just
you
like
have your straight thing, and then it's got a cape. It's got like a over jacket thing.
an over jacket. Then you can just see your
An over
grandma walking
jacket.
around. Over jacket. What's a jacket? What's an under jacket? No such thing. So, but I thought, who was these people, these individuals that started designing and saying, "Hey, this is cool." It feels
And
like
then
a
other
personal.
people, and then other people were like, "Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
let's
what
share
it
it with
is."
the world. And it's like, no. I mean,
No,
the only people that can, I think, pull it off, tall, young, thin, whatever. I know that's normally within the bounds of fashion, but this does not, I don't even think it looks good. These dresses I'm talking about particularly. I think there's cute tops and stuff, I can go for that. But dresses, like
they gotta have some
I
shape.
exactly. I am 50. I am not thin, but I am also not just straight body. I have curves.
Got the curve.
I like to show a little curve for a nighttime dress. Oh, it was so frustrating. I've never felt so angry at the fashion industry before. Except when they started bringing back mom jeans too. I'm like, oh, another thing that's like not
They're just
friendly to women with
recycling
a
at
lot of
this point.
curves. Yeah,
They're
it's
just
not friendly.
recycling.
But anyways, please, please. I know nobody's listening that can have any influence on this, but I just beg the gods, please bring back pretty clothes because they're so ugly right now. Collective does not need that. We don't need the prairie look
It
anymore.
starts getting, I feel like when you start referring as the collective, it starts to feel like dystopian. The collective.
Well, that's where these clothes would probably come in. It's like, I don't know. I need a bandage. I've got a wound. Okay, we'll just take the bottom of
Rip
my
off the
skirt.
skirt.
It's got a nice seam right here where you can just take that part off. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Yeah. Anyways, I had to get that out. I feel good. Thank you, Haley. Thank you, listener.
You're welcome. Thanks, listener.
Okay, so how do you wrap it up after all that? I don't know. You just say, it's been fun. Hope it wasn't too much of a info dump. I think we have at this point, if you're, well, you are listening to the finished product. Haley and I have been talking for a while, but I think we edited out a lot because we went off tangent.
Yeah, a couple times.
I think I'm going to edit that out too. Okay, so enough about the dresses. Let's let the listener go about their life today and contemplate the circuitry that is in their own design and potentially those around them. So, like I said, you can always go get your body graph. There's a link in the show notes to Genetic Matrix for a free copy of your body graph. And also there's a link where you can download again the PDF of what this circuitry looks like. It is not heavy information dense like what this podcast is today. It is literally a visual component that if you want to go back through it again and look, and you can also look at your chart, compare the two, say, oh, this is where I have these gates in here and blah, blah, blah. So might help them or help people, understand themselves a little bit more. It certainly helped me. Seeing all the individual circuitry in my chart made me not feel so, like I said, outsider-like. I know now that I am designed to feel that way because I'm more comfortable in that individuality. Like I said to you earlier, I don't feel so bad being referred to now, like referring to myself, not in, like selfish has such a negative connotation to it, but we were talking about self-preservation, that it's not that I always put myself first, but I just like being by myself and being in my own process. And that's where I'm happiest. Okay, so
I am happiest by myself.
Not all, because I do love my family. I have some of that. I have that tribal circuitry too.
I mean, we're pretty cool. So
I have 3 out of the 4 gates in the tribal circuitry, so I'm very tribal.
There you go.
I love you. You're in my tribe. My daughter. My daughter. All right. You have a good night, and look forward to the next episode. So, Haley, bye.
Bye.
Well, you made it all the way to the end of today's episode, so you must have liked what you heard. If you did, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode, and perhaps leave us a good review. And if you know someone who wants to dig into all things human design with us, make sure you share the Human Design Hive podcast with them. We'd really appreciate it. Thanks for listening. Catch you in the next episode.